This is Talk of the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up today, tales of the weird and wonderful from across a crazy international break that may or may not be related to Manchester United. A preview to Everton as the Premier League gets going again. And how exactly will United replace Benjamin Sesko with the striker looks set to be out until mid-December. Carl and Andy are back, but more excitedly, sorry lads, Laurie is joining us from Jamaica. Hello, mate.
Hello. I think that's the first time you've ever said you are more excited to see me than Carl or Andy. But thank you. It's very good to see you guys.
Didn't say it was true. I just thought I'd give you a bit of a build-up considering you're battling Jamaican Wi-Fi and an airport trip to come on the podcast.
Yeah, and sunshine and great food and beautiful hospitality. It's been a real struggle.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen your Instagram posts, so I've got a fair idea of what you've been up to.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
Oh, mate.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll find out a little bit later on in the pod when we talk about Jamaica failing to qualify for the World Cup. You know, that story you went over for Steve McClaren's redemption and all that. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, there's been lots of Manchester United related stuff across this international break. And Chris McKenna's written an article on The Athletic detailing all the different things. We've got Lamans making his first ever cap for Belgium. We've got Casemiro featuring again for Brazil, starring again for Brazil. De Ligt being back in contention for Ronald Koeman, which we didn't see coming. Mazraoui starting a couple of matches, getting more minutes under his belt. I mean, what stood out to you?
Scott McTominay?
Oh, really?
We should probably...
I did say it's sort of related to Manchester United. Yeah.
I know. McTominay being United Academy. I've said it multiple times on this podcast, but I'll say it again. Scott McTominay, I was absolutely wrong about your relationship with Rasmus Hojlund. I had no idea you could be this good. This is incredible. In the two biggest games of your career in the last 12 months, you scored bicycle kicks to get your team where they need to be. That is phenomenal. What a fantastic football player. Clearly among top 30, 50, I don't know how you want to call it, in the world. That's great.
19th, wasn't he? In the Ballon d'Or votes, I think, something like that.
So I'll start there, mostly because I know we've got quite a few Scottish listeners as well. So, hello.
Yeah, you'll have all the Irish listeners shouting at you, though, to say, why haven't you mentioned Ireland's dramatic achievements over the break as well? The thing with McTominay, the only issue I've got with it all, and I'm really proud of him, Andy, I think it's great what he's done. And, to see him shine for Napoli, for Scotland, is a great reflection on the Manchester United Academy. It just doesn't mean that it was a mistake selling him, does it? I mean, to be honest, we've talked about it before. I'm not sure that they should have done in the circumstances that they did, but we can't keep having the same conversation, can we?
No, but football fans will do that.
Yep.
The standard in Serie A is lower than the Premier League. I think that is fair to say. He's playing in a very good Napoli team. I think when your confidence is up and you feel that you've got your coach really behind you, that can really help a player. The cliche about a new leash of life is relevant here. He's living in an amazing part of the world. I've spoken to him in Italy, and he's maybe vengeful is too strong a word, but definitely keen to prove that he's a top player. And I'm pleased for him. Eric Ten Hag didn't want to sell Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay was sold partly because he came through that academy system. That's one of the contradictions of it. It's you get more money for it. But I can remember pretty mainstream conversations about when Casemiro came in saying he'd raise the levels, a level above Scott McTominay. And I think that's also fair. I think Casemiro did that in his first season. I was delighted for him the other night. It was one of the best goals I've ever seen. A Scottish football person told me it's the greatest goal in Scotland's history. And that's someone who's not...
Really?
Really?
Wow.
And that's someone who works in professional football, a leading football club. It wasn't just that one. The other two Scotland goals were also incredible.
Yeah. Well, the two at the end, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think Scotland played that well. I thought they defended incredibly well. And they've got that spirit. I don't even think Denmark played that badly. I love the fact that Rasmus Hojlund congratulated Scott on socials, how very 2025, but that gave a measure of him as an individual. Dorgu also scored.
Scoring in the game as well. It looked at that point like it was the goal that was sending Denmark to the World Cup too, and it's very cruel on him.
Yeah, It was a brilliant game, and Wales had an amazing result as well. Following on from the two amazing results from the Republic of Ireland in beating Portugal and Hungary, the latter in extremely dramatic circumstances. So it was really good. Call them the home nations. I don't think you call Republic of Ireland a home nation, but the British Isles, maybe you wouldn't call the Republic of Ireland part of the British Isles.
Keep digging that hole, Andy, yeah.
I'm in that hole. But my sentiment is one of congratulations, because these are from countries with small populations. Scotland 5 million, Republic of Ireland 5 million, Wales 3.5 million, and
we don't even need to
Laurie
say that,
says,
do we?
Hold my beer. Yeah,
True.
Yeah, it's good. I was watching these thinking, this is fantastic, because only at the weekend I wrote a very critical piece about the European qualifying groups, saying that they were far too predictable for the leading teams. And I stand by that. And for the worst teams, and I don't know what the solution is to that. So it's ironic that there's far more interest in the mid-place teams, and that's where the jeopardy is coming from. And you love it. Scotland is a brilliant football country, and their fans will have a great time. Just they better get saving for it now, because prices have gone up quite a lot since they last played in a World Cup.
Laurie, just looking across the rest of the squad then, I mentioned some of the highlights, and you wonder how important it is for Lamans to make his first Belgian start, considering he didn't even make the squad when he first joined Manchester United, although there may well have been sort of extra circumstances to that. Mazraoui getting 90 minutes, like I said before, he got an assist in both games, wins over Mozambique and Uganda. I mean, he only played, 3 games, I think, for United, started 3 matches in this season, so building his fitness. And De Ligt as well, it must be a huge moment for him. Left out in October, starts the second game of this international break for the Netherlands. It's just going to really boost these lads, these sort of stories, isn't it?
Yeah, did he win a penalty, De Ligt, as well?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So, listen, that is
Good
the kind
performance
of...
playing next to Van Dijk.
I knew you were going to chime in on this, Carl. You could listen. If you want to take the De Ligt and Netherlands question,
I gave
feel
him
free.
his opportunity before.
I know he did. He's gone McTominay. He's gone for a player who's not even here anymore. I mean, to be fair, I haven't actually watched any of these highlights because obviously I've been too busy eating beef patties. But
obviously,
yeah, and seeing how a nation of 155,000, or is it a nation of 185,000, Andy, in Curacao, reaching their first major tournament. So, as Ian was referencing earlier, have that Wales, Republic of Ireland and Scotland. I think Loman's starting for Belgium is an interesting one. I know it was against Liechtenstein, who are, when I was looking at the rankings, because I was doing this to see whether Jamaica got into the top 2 places of the intercontinental playoffs in March based on FIFA ranking. They don't. They're third. They're just outside behind Iraq and Congo, DR Congo. So anyway, they've got to play 2 matches in March. But I noticed that Liechtenstein were way down the rankings, so I don't think they would have provided too much of a challenge for Lomond. But still, when he first signed for United, obviously he wasn't even in the squad. There was 4 goalkeepers that were called up, so there was sort of this maybe slight perception. How good is he really? I know that Rudy Garcia was saying that he wanted to give him space, with the transfer and everything, but there was some, questions around that a little bit. So for Thibaut Courtois to be injured and for him to kind of come in and get his chance, I think that is a big statement. And, great that he's kept another clean sheet. Obviously United haven't lost since he's come into the team. So let's hope that continues.
While you mentioning Iraq there, they had an incredible win with a former Manchester United player and Mancunian Zidane Iqbal coming on.
I knew you weren't going to miss
really
that opportunity either, Andy. As soon as I mentioned Iraq, I knew Zidane Iqbal was getting out.
Jaff got in touch with us as well to say, safe to say you missed an absolutely phenomenal last-minute nail-biting comeback from Iraq yesterday evening. Absolute limbs, he says.
Yeah, I wanted to go there. I wanted to go to Basra, but I couldn't get travel insurance to go there.
It was Jaff who was trying to help you do it, I think, to be fair.
Yeah. I had a few people.
107th minute penalty to get the goal to go on to the next. Phenomenal 5-minute ending.
That was against UAE. So we've got listeners around the world, and whenever we mention these countries, be interesting if we've got any in Curacao. Given how small the population is, but shows how global football is, and it shows where Manchester United fans are. And when we mention some of these smaller places like Scotland, no, I'm joking, people people buzz off it.
We've definitely got some in Jamaica. I've got to give a shout out to Donald Oliver, who is a local journalist for the Jamaica Observer. Really nice guy. Came up and said hello to me and was buzzing that we were, I was visiting Jamaica and that a representative of the podcast was in Jamaica, shall we say. So, yeah, we do have some fans in Jamaica at least.
Right, before we jump into all the Jamaica chat, the Curacao chat, everything else in between, do your de Ligt thing, Carl? Because I think a lot of people will be very interested in this.
Yes. Matthijs de Ligt plays next to Virgil van Dijk in a 4-0 win over Lithuania. That secured the Netherlands qualification for the World Cup. It was 4 goal scorers, all Premier League based, all Premier League experience. It's a back four of Yuri and Timber, Matthijs de Ligt, Virgil van Dijk and Nathan Ake, which is interesting there too. And I think de Ligt is probably in a competition with Mickey van der Ven to get that centre-back spot next to Virgil van Dijk. There's going to be a couple of questions over who's got the greatest playing affinity or chemistry with Van Dijk to make that national team. So really, really interesting there. Also during this international break, de Ligt mentioned how he's now, I think we spoke about this in the previous episode, how he's trying to be a bit more courageous in his passing. He said, he made mention of how when he first came, playing senior football was more about limiting his mistakes, but now he's trying to do more things to help his team win, which is interesting because that was something that had been mentioned in the past, particularly about his passing when he was in Germany, that sometimes he can be a little bit too conservative. But if de Ligt is now trying to play a little bit more on the front foot, I think that would be really advantageous, not just for his World Cup hopes, but also for Manchester United, especially if he's going to play that middle centre-back role. He's going to have to do a little bit more midfield-esque behaviours.
Yeah, I spoke to Jaap Stam actually briefly at the Etihad before the international break, and he was praising how much confidence Matthijs de Ligt was playing with. He said it was very good to see him back to some semblance of his best form, and also what he was saying was that he saw sort of more decisiveness in de Ligt's play, that the aggressive pressing and running, chasing players into midfield and even further back was great to see. The passing was mentioned as well, like you say too, Carl. So yeah, he's definitely a player who's thriving and catching the attention at the moment. But speaking of thriving, catching the attention, Laurie Whitwell's Instagram page has been something to behold over the last few days. So you went all the way to Jamaica for Steve McClaren's redemption. He obviously didn't make Euro 2008 in charge of England. He's had a meandering career since, but found his way to being the head coach of Jamaica. And there he stood on the brink of getting them to their first finals since 1998. Laurie, take it away.
Yeah, you're saying that I've jinxed this?
No, you just went all that way for a 0-0 draw.
Well, I went all this way for an incredible, what I would say, occasion that, honestly, that last sort of minute where particularly Jamaica got a penalty awarded and then VAR intervened, that emotional ride, I was absolutely done. I was drained. I felt it with all the fans there, obviously not in the same way that they were feeling it. The anticipation, it would have been brilliant if they'd qualified. The mood around the colour, the vibrancy, there was dancing in the stands. There was dance all going on.
Your interview request with Steve McClaren, all those things, yeah.
Well, listen, there might still be a piece that comes out very shortly that goes into a lot more about what kind of experience it was for Steve McClaren managing Jamaica. Obviously, he dramatically stepped down immediately in the aftermath of the game. That in itself was crazy. So the game happens 0-0. You've got this kind of sort of small contingent of Curacao fans that run onto the pitch. They've been flown over from Curacao in a couple of planes. The Jamaica fans are, kind of stunned and silent, and that atmosphere and energy is kind of drained and then turns into anger. And sort of I'm trying to make my way down to the press conference room afterwards, and there's a gate that kind of keeps you from the tunnel. You're kind of all mingling with the fans. And there's players from Jamaica getting into real strong verbal altercations with fans that are kind of, having a go at them. Police were involved. I think some players were getting into verbal sparring with the police. And then we go into the press conference suite and you can hear some rumours that McClaren's resigned, and it's coming from the president of the Jamaican FA, Michael Ricketts. No, not that one, who used to play for Bolton Wanderers, a different Michael Ricketts, who is saying that he's basically just resigned, to him. And it was quickly accepted. And then McClaren comes in, reads a handwritten no, and basically doesn't take any questions. But I think was very emotional in that moment. And it's something that he'd been feeling he might have to do if they didn't qualify. It was always on a sort of precipice. It was sort of do or die. It was winner takes all. And then a draw. Curacao takes all. But I think there was an acknowledgement from him and Jamaica that this could go the other way if it wasn't quite right. They all were very optimistic, and I hope certainly that it was going to be a Jamaica story just because of the people that I've met over here. I think it would have been fabulous for the World Cup to have Jamaican fans attending. They still could, right? They've got this playoff in March, and maybe that's the surprise that McClaren stepped down in that way. But the piece that I've got coming out, that should be out actually by the time people listen to this, we'll go into a bit more of the reasons why that is the case. So to maybe check the Athletic for your full account of that if you're interested. Obviously it's the job that he left Manchester United to take, right? And his role at United had shifted. Eric Ten Hag was refreshing his coaching staff, pretty much under the advice, instruction of the new hierarchy that wanted a change of dynamic at Carrington. McClaren, could have stayed, but his role would change basically, and he saw this Jamaica opportunity as one to, get to the World Cup and kind of have a winter of his career that then had this, incredible finish. And so, I don't know, it was pretty sad sort of watching it all unfold, and certainly speaking to the Jamaican people the day after. I think they are, really, dramatically disappointed because it would have been their only World Cup since 1998. But honestly, I know you may laugh and you may scoff that I've come all this way. There is another piece that will come out actually, I think in due course, that might have a bit of Manchester United interest for people. You can maybe sort of figure that one out possibly. But as an experience to be a part of and witness, it was absolutely incredible. A packed stadium, which isn't always the case at the National Stadium in Kingston.
Yeah, to be fair, Laurie, I know Steve McClaren is a big Manchester United link, clearly. I just wondered if you managed to find any more, because I think you were scrambling around to try and draw any link to justify the fact that you'd travelled all these miles to the other side of the world to cover a game that didn't really have any Manchester United link. You are a Manchester United correspondent after all, yeah?
Well, yes, this is international break, and Manchester United is a perfectly sane club right now. So I've got now time and scope to, go and do these kind of things.
Fly to Jamaica, but
time and scope to pitch to your bosses that you absolutely have to go to Jamaica.
What was it me that pitched? Was it, who's to say? Was it the editors that came to me and said, "You're just the guy for this with this United ankle that we have here"? Listen, there's obviously the question around Mason Greenwood, shall we say, with Jamaica. So maybe stay tuned for that one. Tahith Chong would have been a nice Manchester United link for Curacao had he been fit. He wasn't in the squad because he went home injured. And then you reminded me that Kenji Gore, came through United's academy system that I kind of, in the moment of being around the Curacao team on Sunday, I spoke to the Bacuna brothers, my personal history with covering Aston Villa made me think, okay, Leandro, he is the captain, he's their best player, even though he's 34 and playing in Turkey's second tier. So anyway, I spoke to those two brothers and they were great fun. Plus the president of Curacao, who said that he actually tried to get Lou van Gaal to take the job first before Dick Advocaat, as well as Bert van Marwijk. But anyway, Van Marwijk was retired. He's 73. Van Gaal is 74. He said no because he only wants to take charge of a team that has a chance of winning the World Cup. And I don't think anyone thinks that Curacao have got any hope of that. That's the most typical Louis van Gaal thing you could ever think, right? Like the proper Van Gaal answer.
That's such a Van Gaal answer.
You can hear him saying it, can't you? Yeah.
Thank you for your interest, but then Dick Advocaat, got wind that he was Gilbert Martina, the president, was making these inquiries and said, "What about me? Dick Advocaat is 78." He's the elder statesman in this sort of tussle between him and McClaren by 14 years. And you think McClaren's experienced. Dick Advocaat was actually not present in Curacao either. His wife had fallen ill, so he flew home after the Bermuda game that they won that 7-0 away. And then he went and tended to her, so he watched it from afar. But Kenji Gore, who came through United's academy, his dad Dean Gore was on the sidelines to oversee matters. So, yeah, I mean, a crazy, few days, Ian. I think maybe I'm going to have to really consider the next far-flung journey for the United content before committing to it. It might be my last trip for a while.
I like it, to be fair. I mean, I knew about the Gores because of Magali, who was in The Housewives of Cheshire. My dad was an extra in that programme a couple of times.
Incredible.
He may have parted with Magali and Dawn Ward at her 50th birthday party. And Gore as well, Dean, was actually the manager of Edgerton Sports Club, which is just the other side of where I live as well. So he was manager of a very low-level non-league side. I think before this role with Curacao as the assistant manager and obviously stepping in. So there's Manchester links, Laurie. You just have to look for them, don't you?
Kenji Gore did actually play, at least. There was that.
Yeah, of course,
but honestly, I mean, there's certainly a big contingent of Manchester United fans in Jamaica as well, certainly even within the camp. I mean, you actually had Richard Hartis as well, former United goalkeeping coach. He was assisting Steve McClaren, number 2. Trevor Sinclair was as well. I know he's a more Man City, sort of figure, but he
Manchester
was
lad, though. Yeah.
Manchester lad, exactly. So he was there. But I don't know. Obviously, it's a massive blessing, isn't it, to be able to do this as your job and experience a part of the world. So I threw myself into it. So last night, so I've had beef patty. I've had let me get this the right way around because there's the right way around to say it. I've had curry goat patty from Devon House. I've had So the patties from Juicy and Tasty, the two kind of rivals, I think, in Kingston for the who does the best. So they're kind of pastries. And then obviously I finished off my trip to Jamaica with, where do you think I went for my final meal in Jamaica?
Well, another pastry shop by the sound of it.
You've got to get oxtail. You have to get oxtail before you leave
I know.
Jamaica.
So people have now told me I need to get oxtail. KFC is the answer to that question.
Okay.
I know that sounds like, you can take the lad out of Stockport, but you can't, stop his KFC
take the lad out
fascination.
of
Kentucky.
Yeah.
But honestly, apparently, so I went with another journalist, Daniel Blake, who works for the Jamaica Observer, and he said, honestly, it's a different experience. So they do barbecue chicken, spicy chicken, and then the original chicken. I also had, and it was great, honestly. It really was an experience. There's a massive queue. This was like 9:00 at night. And then I also got some champagne soda, which didn't have any champagne in. But the previous day, I did get some ice cream from Devon House. And the two flavours of ice cream that I got were Devon Stout, in a little reference to our Guinness drinking days over in Ireland, and Rum and Raisin. And now, so the Rum and Raisin is basically they have white rum. So Ray and Nephew is clearly what they've put in it because it was pretty potent. And then I've been stout as well. I was eating this ice cream, walking down the street. I was getting a bit half cut. It was that powerful.
We're going to get the Laurie Whitwell food Instagram soon.
It's coming, Carl. the post that I've saved for when I've left, and I can kind of go, this is my reflections. Hopefully will entertain people.
You've been doing this. Andy's been watching football games all around Spain during the international break. Ian's been interviewing Ruben Amorim again, probably. I've been in a tactics track.
Just want United back. You could do an article on Man United players who've been on holiday to Jamaica, Laurie, and if they've not, places near to Jamaica. Try to think of other links. Andy Cole's Jamaican. His dad's Jamaican.
I was speaking about that actually with Daniel. So Devante, he was sort of in the reckoning to get called up at one point. Devante's at Port Vale. Andy's dad, Devante's granddad, was quite disappointed that his son only made it as an elite professional footballer and not a cricketer. And he'd say to him, like, would you like to come and watch Manchester United against Real Madrid? He'd go, no, you're all right. Just like, if it was cricket, he'd be absolutely there.
There's only one Old Trafford, son.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry, Dad, I'm only good enough to be one of the best strikers in the world.
Brilliant. Well, Laurie, I believe you need to head to the airport, don't you, to end this magical mystery tour of yours. So thank you for squeezing us in.
And thank you so much for having me, guys. And I will see you very shortly.
Enjoyed it all, even the ice cream updates. Thanks, mate. Safe travels.
See ya.
Okay, back to Manchester United. That was great to have Laurie on, though, wasn't it? What an absolutely crazy trip he's had, and there's still an hour or two until he has to fly back, so there could well be more updates by the time of the next podcast. Stay tuned. Before we talk about Everton then and the Premier League resuming on Monday night for Manchester United at Old Trafford, that's the men's side, just a little flash of the women's team, Andy, who are having a little bit of a struggle at the moment. We've spoken quite a lot about them over the course of this international break, but their last game before the women's international break was Wednesday evening in the Champions League against Wolfsburg, a 5-2 defeat in Germany in the end for Mark Skinner's side. It brings to an end their 100% record in the competition. And is it a concerning result, or is it just the fact that United have had some pretty difficult games of late?
Well, they're definitely difficult games. The Manchester City one at the weekend. I think the point we touched on about the squad not having the strength in depth of some of the rivals. I wasn't in Wolfsburg. Matt Ford, a journalist and friend of mine, was. He said United's opener was brilliant. Mallard into Rolfo, class goal. But then 4 of the 5 Wolfsburg goals were huge United mistakes, a couple from the keeper. Wolfsburg deserved it in the second half. There were 3,800 there. Around 40 travelling United who made themselves heard. So, yeah, it's a defeat. But would you have accepted 3 wins out of 4
exactly,
after 4 Champions League wins? Absolutely, you would. I was there at Old Trafford last week. There was lots of positives in that win over PSG. So, yeah, I'd accept it for the men's team, and I think for the women's team, it's been a good start.
Oh, to accept defeats in the Champions League, Carl?
Yeah, it's been a tricky one. I mean, when the initial league phase draw was made for the women's team, you're looking at it going, ew, that's painful. And United they've got points where you'd expect them to get points so far. You know, you're playing Wolfsburg, 2-time Champions League winners, one of the strongest teams in Germany. And this is it was the 4th game in 11 days, I want to say, for the
squad. They're just not used to that, are they?
No, not used to that at all. Some of the old problems and some of the old questions, weaknesses of not only the squad, but also how Mark Skinner uses the squad have come to the fore, in that largely in the past, Skinner doesn't necessarily rotate unless it's injury he has to. He's not necessarily historically been the best at giving time or blooding the youngsters, to use the term. And now you've got a backup goalkeeper who has less than a handful, 4 senior starts for Manchester United, playing against one of the most seasoned teams in women's Champions League history. Some real defensive errors for some of those goals, where United are trying to build up from the back and it's just a slack pass, and all of a sudden Wolfsburg are changing it from defence to attacking just like that, and it's 2 or 3 passes and you're in. So an education. I think this United team, when everyone is fit and has an international break and hopefully things get to settle down, I think they can definitely make a push I think they'll make the knockout stages, and I think they might even make a push towards the quarterfinals. But we're beginning to see the difference now between a team like Wolfsburg or a team like Manchester City / a Chelsea caliber, and a team that is doing okay. But also there is always this question of, how does Manchester United women get better? And is there the commitment from Ineos and others to support that and grow? Because, yeah, I think it'll take a larger cash investment than we have seen in the past, and a larger cash investment than Sir Jim Ratcliffe seems willing to make so far. I hope that's not too mean to say.
Yeah, okay, well, Lyon and Juventus still to go in the Champions League phase for Skinner's side, so it doesn't get much easier, but we'll check in again with this team, the other side of the international break. Let's talk about the men's team, Andy. Everton are the visitors to Old Trafford on Monday night, back in Premier League action, and it begins an interesting run of fixtures for United, an opportunity, you might say.
Yeah, against teams who are not at the top. We've got West Ham at home, you've got Wolves away, and first up you've got Everton at home. Everton have only won one of the 5 league games, the 13th in the league, so you might say that's par for Everton, although they did have a good start. They are much better in their new home. They've only lost once at home, but they're coming to Old Trafford. Strikes me as a game that Manchester United absolutely have to win, and I know United were actually impressive against Everton almost a year ago. We sort of joked with Laurie calling it a statement victory, but
I think that's the real reason he's gone early, actually, so he doesn't have to talk about the fact that he called Ruben Amorim's first Premier League game in charge at Old Trafford a statement win for what was to come
Hey, it's still Amorim's biggest ever victory in charge of Manchester United.
Yeah.
A 4-0 win over Sean Dyche's Everton with goals from Joshua Zirkzee and Marcus Rashford. How things change very, very quickly at this club.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
I think that was probably the best game I'd seen Onana play last season for Manchester United. And a part of me wished that game had been televised because it was one where you're going, okay, hopefully he can build on this, but that wasn't to be the case. Ahmad played right wing back in that fixture.
Played very well at right wing back.
Very well in that game.
Yeah.
But looking into this fixture, it's an odd one in that the fixture list looks good for Manchester United.
How good, Carl? There's an article about it, isn't there?
There is an article about it.
It's that good. There's an article about it.
Among other things, I joined 2 or 3 athletic reporters who are far smarter and funnier than me to assess who we think is going to win the title, who's going to finish in Champions League places, who is going to be in the managerial sack race. No one mentioned Amorim, don't worry. And in amongst that, Duncan Alexander provided some wonderful stats, and according to Opta supercomputer, United have the easiest run of the next 10 Premier League fixtures. They're tied with Liverpool, which should be good, but also, and I'll put it both to you, when United play quote unquote smaller teams or teams who are expected to play in the bottom half, do you feel confident because they are weak, in air quotes, weaker, or do you have questions over how they're going to break down a team that might sit back?
I've got more confidence in this team, Andy, than previous incarnations under Amorim, that they can thrive with this fixture list, to be honest. And that's even with the question marks that are coming in December with the Africa Cup of Nations. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. But I still think it's building towards a team. So the home record is much better. Yeah. That's a good thing. But analyse those home games individually. There's been moments where opponents have had 20, 30-minute spells where they've been the better team. Even the Burnley win at Old Trafford was a bit hair-raising. If you like jeopardy in sport, watch Manchester United at Old Trafford. It's certainly there.
Even Brighton being absolutely out of sight at 3-0 up and then suddenly 3-2 and a little bit concerned.
So we're seeing trends. Manchester United substitutes, I think, are very interesting. We're seeing the games change. We've seen the team go ahead and then sit back. Manchester United are not good enough to defend against Premier League teams who decide to really go for Manchester United. Got to be beating the lower team, so Carl's point is right. But then went to Forest a few weeks ago. Forest had been poor. Went to Tottenham a few weeks ago. They'd been poor. So you're just about getting away with those results, just about getting away with the league position. But you've got to be winning these home games. If this was where the strength is coming from, and Everton is one of those games, and West Ham is one of those games, I don't like the fact that a couple of them have got new managers. David Moyes obviously stayed at Everton. I had an hour with David a couple of months ago in Chicago, and I was struck by how uncertain he was of Everton going into this season. And he was like, we need signings. Now, he has actually had those signings because he hadn't had Jack Grealish, for example, when I spoke to him. And maybe he's publicly or speaking to me more pessimistic. Would you settle for 13th if you're Everton? Yes and no. They've been fighting relegation in previous seasons, but when they started well, when they've got the new home, they've even got a new fanzine, which it's great to see in this day and age, a printed fanzine. But got to be beating them at Old Trafford. I think there'd be real disappointment if Manchester United drew the next 3 games. It's nice just to have a game at Old Trafford. It's only the second game in 50 days at Old Trafford. I'm not going to say there's fixture congestion coming up, but this time of year has been really important, especially December, for previous Manchester United games. This is the month where you've had these absolute horror stats last year and under Louis van Gaal as well, going back a decade. So if you can reverse that and get a good run of form going into the games at Christmas, then suddenly people will be like, yeah, Manchester United are actually definitely better. I'm talking around the houses here, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think we all feel it, Andy, to be honest. We all want to feel more optimistic, and we all want to have more belief, and we all want to feel that, like I said before, this team is better equipped to be able to beat teams you'd expect them to beat and be more consistent. I mean, I spoke to Amarin at the start of the week, and he seemed much happier with what he's seeing, talking up the intensity that his team's showing. I asked him about the discrepancy between being one of the highest scoring teams. I think no team scored more goals in the first half of Premier League matches than Manchester United, but then equally, no team has conceded more goals in the second half of Premier League matches than Manchester United. And like you've said about the substitutes as well, I wonder if those two things are linked a little bit, because it does feel like at times the level does drop a little bit when those changes are made, no matter what those changes are. So that's definitely a key area for improvement for United in trying to work out that problem. I've seen Everton a lot this season. They're a different team than they've been in the past. Again, Amarin name check Jack Grealish, Iliman and Jai as well, who've been fantastic features of their attacking play so far this season. One of the issues that Moyes had with his recruitment and squad at the start of the year was having no right back. They've got lots of right backs, or lots of players who can play right back, but no one who feels like they've completely nailed down that position. Jake O'Brien's played much of the season there. James Garner has stepped back to right back at times during the campaign. He's even played left back, I think, a couple of times as well, because they've been short in the full back areas. Nathan Patterson doesn't seem to be fancied by Moyes. He's had issues with injury as well. Seamus Coleman, not the player he once was. Big influence around the team still. So I wonder if that's an area that United might be able to exploit. And obviously we saw Mbeumo playing on that side in the Spurs game, and Ahmad playing in the front three. So whether that continues, we'll talk in a moment about how they replace Sesko, because he's missing at the moment. But it's an Everton team who feel much stronger at home, like you said. The record's very strong. They've adapted incredibly well to new surroundings, which is not always the case, but it's now on the road where they've got the problems. That said, they look better away at Sunderland before the break. So it's a tricky game, Carl. But again, going back to the type of conversation we're having here, it's a match that you want Manchester United to come back off the international break, play well, win, and look ahead to some fixtures where they should be getting some more wins and some more positive displays and more development in this team as well.
Absolutely. Now's the time to build momentum. Now's the time to... It feels like we want to get carried away, or get carried away just a little bit more.
We want to get in position to be carried away is how I'm feeling.
That's it, right? In that
we want to do that thing where Fergie used to say the season starts on New Year's Day. You've got to be in a good position on New Year's Day to kick forward. So
right, I want to stop having to hold myself back from using the word
set pieces are trendy again. Long throws are trendy again. Why not make the season started on New Year's Day trendy again?
I like it. I like that chat. I like the idea that United could be within striking distance of the Champions League. I think that'd be a great feeling to have. I think it'd be great if we can call things good rather than just encouraging, or say getting better. We can say, no, it's good. But we're not going to be able to tell that until these games occur. And because it's one game a week and sometimes even longer, I think Andy's already said it. It's just a bit annoying, the fact that this game's on a Monday, because we will have that extra bit of distance, that extra bit of pause, because I want to just get into it now. But we'll see. Times will tell. I think the point you're making about Everton's weakness at fullback makes me believe Amram may go back to Ahmad and Mbeumo on the right hand side to sort of overpower them on one flank. That's based on very little other than a gut feeling. It's really weird now that we're talking about Everton, and yet no one's brought up Gareth Braithwaite, right? In this is a player who...
Or Branthwaite.
Thank you very much.
He's been out injured all year, that's why.
Right.
Michael Keane's been great for them. He's been really good. He sort of stepped in deputising at the start of the season, and even when Branthwaite was looking like he was going to be back fit, there was even talk that Keane would keep his place. That's as well as he's been playing. Which,
again, in terms of how quickly Manchester United have moved, it was only before Euro 2024 when United appeared to have tabled a bid for him. It seemed to be too low for what Everton wanted, and now that's gone... United now have gone from being in need of a centre-back to looking very well stocked in that position. So this is football. Things can change really, really quickly. That's something Ruben Amorim has repeatedly said in press conferences. About 3 weeks ago, I was in one position and now we're in this position. And hopefully in another 3 weeks, we'll be talking about a Manchester United team that is good And you see again, I paused before I said it because I just can't quite do it yet.
So you say the word good. United have actually already played Everton this season. They played them in Atlanta, and it was 2-2. And there was good in that game, but there was bad and there was ugly as well. If you remember, Bruno got man of the match for a penalty and assist, but he gave the ball away for Everton's second. Ugarte had a really poor game when he'd done previously well for Manchester United. You've just got to be eliminating the inconsistencies within games. And I think Manchester United know that. I think the people at the top absolutely know that. This is the one thing they've just got to be consistent within matches. And there were times in that match where Everton again were cutting through Manchester United. They got a 2-2 draw. I don't think that would be acceptable again. But I'm not convinced Manchester United have fully moved on from where they were. Maybe Everton have got a bit stronger, but then United have also got stronger as well. And United started the season okay. Just got to get some of them 3 points. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. I think again we all feel that. Let's talk about Benjamin Sesko then. The noises coming out of the club make it sound like he's not going to be back until probably mid-December. So we've got a bank of games here where United are going to have to cope without him. Obviously, he's not started every single game, Carl, but he has been a big feature of United's improvement in recent weeks, despite some of the criticism and the conversation around him. So we've come up with a couple of theories already, with Ahmad maybe continuing in the front three. You've talked about Mbeumo going back to the right-hand side and Ahmad going to wing-back. There's obviously Mason Mount to consider. How exactly, Joshua Zirkzee too, how exactly do you see United covering this?
So I got a piece coming out tomorrow on Joshua Zirkzee. So he didn't get selected for the Netherlands team. Apparently might be getting looked at by 2 or 3 teams in Italy ahead of the January transfer window. But like I've said with 2 or 3 other players, he's got to be playing games. Even if his United career is coming towards the end, he needs to play as many games as possible, if only to get possible suitors. You can just do a like-for-like swap, Zirkzee in for Sesko up top. I think Zirkzee's ability... Is
it a like-for-like swap, that?
No, it is not. Thank you for correcting me on that. Zirkzee's told people...
Position for position, yes. I see your point on that side, yeah.
Zirkzee's described himself as a 9.5 in the past, and Amorim last season used him as a number 10, and also said that he needs to be more selfish. Said he had improved, but said he needs to be more selfish in front of goal. In fact, the 2 goals he scored against Everton last season, those were his last Premier League goals.
Is that right?
It's been that long since he scored in the Premier League. So 3 goals in the Premier League, 2 goals in the Europa League.
They both came as a 9.5 as well.
Yeah.
In that game.
Yeah. So there is the current implement. So let me start this again. Sesko didn't start against Tottenham Hotspur, and I think that looked to be more of a formulation Amorim is favouring in the bigger games, if that makes sense. So that felt very much like, he's trying to get a repeat of what he did against Liverpool. The interesting thing about that is you can get a closer replication of that by playing Zirkzee in there, because we know Zirkzee, his hold-up play is good. I'm not sure. I think Sesko probably is a little bit better in the air, particularly with flick-ons, but we know Zirkzee has a decent back-to-goal game. The big thing there is, can he get the release of his pass on? And he plays on the 2 players sort of close to him that want to run in behind. If you play
You could
Cunha,
see that though, couldn't you? With Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno stepping forward as well, Ahmad on one side maybe. There's lots of movement in and around Zirkzee, which you'd think would play to his strengths. I mean, this is his chance to save his United career in a way, isn't it? Am I building that up too much?
No, I think that's a really fair assessment. I think if you play Zirkzee as your centre forward, and even then that's centre forward in air quotes, him dropping deep, Laman's kicking the ball long, he holds the ball up, and you've got Mbeumo, you've got Ahmad, you've got Cunha running in behind, and he releases the ball. If that works in theory, the thing about Zirkzee, and has been about Zirkzee in the past, is he can sometimes be a little bit too slow in releasing that ball. Or there have been times where he does play that ball in, everyone's running in or running down wide, and you're half expecting Zirkzee to be in the box, to be there for the cross, and he's not there yet. So I think that's going to be the next sort of challenge if we're going to try and, if he's going to have a run of games at centre forward. I think you're also right in that if Zirkzee isn't going to get any game time, it can be Cunha, Mount, Mbeumo as your front 3, or indeed you can do Cunha as your number 9, Mount as your... No, that's probably AFCON formulations. This is the tricky bit we're doing right now, in that half my brain is trying to incorporate Zirkzee in for the next couple of weeks, and then you've also got to reach again for AFCON. So for Zirkzee specifically, he's got to play really good or push himself into the conversation now so that when the AFCON period comes, the acclimatization or whatever sort of word you want to use there isn't such a big leap.
Andy, are we at the point where Joshua Zirkzee needs to save his United career, or is that too dramatic?
He needs to play football. I mean, he's got a contract, so he could sit on that, but he needs to play football. He's very popular with the staff, with the players. Yeah. He trains well. He's considered to be really, really talented, but he's got to bring what he does into training into first team matches. I was a little bit surprised that he didn't start even against Grimsby. I think he is the player more than any other who is suffering of Manchester United not being in Europe, because those secondary chances, maybe Kobbie Mainoo is another one, he's just not getting the minutes. He started against Burnley. That was his only start of 11 games. So that's pretty grim for him as well. And he's not been getting off the bench either. Didn't come off the bench against Forest or Tottenham or Liverpool or Sunderland.
90 minutes all
Chelsea.
Season.
Yeah, and a big chunk of that is that Burnley game when he came on after half an hour because Cunha was injured. Other than that, it's a handful of minutes, basically.
Yeah. So I saw he played an hour there, but you're right. He actually came on. He didn't start that game. So Sesko has been the man. If he gets his minutes, he's got to take the minutes. I've seen him score great goals. I've seen him play well. I've mentioned a few times in this podcast, Real Sociedad away last year. It was a fantastic team goal, the way that he took it. He took the ball better than I've seen Benjamin Sesko take the ball. If that's a criticism of him, it's his first touch, because Sesko's been doing well, working hard, having these half chances, but you've got to take your chances. It is that simple. If you Marcus Rashford has taken advantage of the fact that Barcelona have got so many injuries, and if Joshua Zirkzee, if any good can come out of Sesko being injured and he gets some minutes and he does well. And if not, it's looking pretty grim for him. But I know for a fact that he's really highly regarded. But footballers need to play football and need to do well. And he started quite well, didn't he? That first game, when he'd arrived, he got the winner against Fulham. And then he spoke to us all after the game. Hard work to speak to, if I'm honest. But I think I don't say that as a criticism.
No, he's just very laid back.
He's incredibly laid back. Or if he's not to start, then you may see a situation where Cunha is staying up top. I don't think he's always convinced in that role. I think he did really well at Anfield. Tottenham, I thought there were more disappointing performances from the Manchester United players. So it's be very intriguing to see who starts there, or just sort of alternate it, because I watched the Tottenham game and Cunha's in the middle, then he's on the left, then he's on the right. I think Mbumo is the player who's doing best out of the forwards. Diallo's absolutely having his moments as well, but wouldn't it be wonderful if Zirkzee became an absolutely, if not a starter, then someone who's coming on after 60 minutes when the team is dropping,
and giving a proper impact.
And making a proper impact. And we're missing that. Yeah. And Kobbie as well. I was really surprised, when we did the live shows, the support, the feeling around Kobbie. So many people wanting him to do well. Well, he's actually got to do better than what he's doing. And I know it's easy to say that because it's chicken and egg. If you're not getting minutes, how can you get into the rhythm of the game? But there's times when he's come on in matches and he's been pretty flat. Or even worse, Manchester United have dropped off.
Yeah, I definitely think there is something to address there in the team about players coming off the bench and maintaining the level that the side who started the game have set, because there has been a drop-off at times, and we could all probably off the top of our heads list 2 or 3 players, if not more, who've come off the bench and not provided that boost and that drive forward rather than the drop. What if you came on and lifted the level a little bit, and what if you helped the team get over the line or get back and get a draw or a win or whatever it is. So, yeah, that's an area to keep an eye on over these next few weeks, definitely. Just before we finish then, David Ornstein's at it again. The Christmas stuff are in the shops and the transfer junkies are back in the inbox. So he reported this week that Antoine Semenyo at Bournemouth, close to joining Manchester United by all reports last summer. He's got a £65 million release clause, which can be triggered in January. This is a question from Dewey, lots of people on Reddit as well. Would Manchester United consider this, Andy? Is he I don't know, well positioned to join the Old Trafford outfit?
I need to speak to some contacts, so I've got a couple before. I'm frightened to death of saying anything, like Manchester United, like top football, and then you just see your name pinging around the internet over the next few days.
It's terrible being a trusted source, isn't it? It must be awful.
Yeah. Mitten doesn't do transfers, so the minute he says anything, it must be happening. He's signing tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Who Semenyo is?
He's done really well, hasn't he? He's done really fantastic. Well. And Bournemouth have done really well, losing all of those players to get
Let's
into the position.
Let's have another toy to play with, Carl. A Ghanaian one at that, who isn't going to AFCON.
But don't do that.
Sorry to bring that up.
Why did you do that?
Should we move it on?
Yes, right. So I spoke to David. I did the Athletic Football podcast this morning, being Thursday morning, with David Ornstein. We discussed Semenyo and how this release clause works. So it appears to have been part of the contract he signed in the summer. Really, really interesting about this. It is, as far as we understand it, the 65 million price tag works for the first 10 days of the winter window. And I think that's supposed to, if anyone wants to activate it, that means that Semenyo moves and the money's done quickly. So it gives Bournemouth the rest of that window to get the deal done.
Okay.
Apparently there is a similar apparatus for the summer window as well. So it's very much, if you want him, you have to pay the 65 million at the start of the window, get it done, boom, 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 boom. Apparently there is some sort of apparatus where the fee can be lowered as well. You're going to have to listen to that other podcast to find out more. You are absolutely correct in that Manchester United did have a look at him in the summer. Apparently Bournemouth quoted a fee around 70 million. United said no, and then moved on to their next targeting list, which ended up being Brian Mbeumo. I mean, that's not a bad plan B, is it? The difficulty here is Cunha and Mbeumo are in the positions you'd ideally want Semenyo to play for Manchester United. The thing about Semenyo that's making him so appealing to everyone is that he's incredibly two-footed. He's supposed to be slightly stronger on his right foot, but we've seen him against Leeds get a shot away on his left foot, and you can barely tell the difference. The evolution of his play in the last 2 or 3 years has been fantastic. The rawness and the sort of erratic nature of his play has been just getting lowered down. He's beginning to score fantastic goals, but also scoring the ugly goals that turn a player from being a 10-goal-a-season player to a 15 or perhaps even more. Good player. 65 million is a very good price for a player of that quality, but if United were to get him, I think you'd have to play him at wing-back. And that's where I start getting a bit confused because while Amorim has spoken about having wing-backs or wingers who are more offensive than defensive, your attacking wing-back is a mad, right? So a version of Manchester United where it is Sesko or a centre-forward, you've got Cunha and Mbeumo as your number 10s, you've got Semenyo as a wing-back, and then Ahmad as your wing-back. But I think if you put Semenyo as one of your wing-backs, you probably need to get Diogo Dalot or Dorgu in there to be your defensively-minded wing-back, because all those players are going to want to push forward. Things will also be further complicated by the fact that one of your central midfielders is Bruno Fernandes, who, yes, absolutely, I'm sure he would have the time of his life pinging through balls over to all those players. But Bruno also wants to get forward, which means Casemiro, who's having a better season than many expected, would again be sort of stood there in the middle of the park going, lads, can one of you stand back, please? I'm going to get swamped. So if I had something, if United have 65 million to spend in the winter,
that's
which
a big if as well, yeah.
Which I have
that's a big if. That's a big if.
I don't have the contact book. I don't speak to as many people to the same level as transfer expert Andy Mitten. Or
one of my mates used to be his manager, at Bristol City. Dean listens to this podcast.
I spoke to Dean this morning as well as part of this podcast. He's a phenomenal coach. He told some fantastic stories.
Dean's a great lad. No, I've known Dean for like 20 or 30 years. I need to get into him, but I also know people at Bournemouth as well. The understanding I got from Bournemouth, they do not want to sell any they sold too many players. Mm-hmm. But before I say any more, I suppose I need to put some calls in, don't I? But
oh yeah.
No, stop leading me into this. It's mental. Transfers are mental.
We are more than 40 days away from the opening of the window, and yet here we are.
It's not that many, Carl. 40 days. No?
I suppose.
The thing is, it is a big if with United, isn't it? Because they pushed and pushed and pushed in the summer, and they went way beyond what we all expected in terms of the outlay. And I know they got in position to claw some of that back with clauses inserted with Rasmus Hojlund, which I'm sure will be activated in the summer. There's obviously the chance of Marcus Rashford's situation being sorted permanently as well and getting a fee for him. So there's room to manoeuvre, but I'm not sure that comes in January. And when you see the finances which Crick ran us through a few weeks ago and the extra money that's being taken out on this revolving credit facility that was done last summer, I'm not sure how well positioned United would be to do that again in January. But we talked it down in the summer and look what happened. It won't be the last time we talk about transfers, so I think we leave it there on Talk of the Devils. We look forward to Everton. We hope for all the things that we spoke about. Thank you, Laurie, who obviously came on for a bit at the start. Carl and Andy, thanks for being with us for the duration. And thanks for your company, listening and watching as well. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already. Like the video and also get involved in the comments too. And click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels at TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.